Right away, here's how you coil or wrap a cable using the over-under method. Start with one end of the cable draped over your hand with the palm facing up and the cable connector on the little finger side of your hand. The uncoiled cable is on the index finger side. With your other hand, take a hold of about 2 feet or 60 centimeters of cable with an overhand grip and the thumb facing the other hand. As you make the coil, you can assist the cable by subtly twisting the cable away from you between your thumb and index finger. You're feeling where the cable wants to go and guiding it into a nice loop. This is the over portion of the over-under technique. For the under portion, slide your hand down the cable another 2 feet or so, maintaining the overhand grip. Then you'll be rotating your wrist so that the palm faces up. Be careful here so that your hand doesn't need to come off the cable. The key is to make sure that your holding hand is closer to you than the active hand as it hands off each loop. That will require the active hand to be under the coil you're forming, hence the over-under method. Now I know some of this might seem like unnecessary detail, but these are the points that people get hung up on, so I really hope this video helps. From here, you just repeat that process. Over, under, over, under. Be very careful when uncoiling the cable and check that neither end of the cable is going through the coil. That will result in as many knots as there are coils of cable unless you bring the ends back to their proper sides before continuing to uncoil. Also very important, the right way to coil a cable when you're cleaning up a studio or a stage is ultimately up to the owner of the cable. If they tell you to do it a certain way, you ought to just do as they say. Within reason though. I've got some friends who insist on bunching up their cables into a wad anytime they're cleaning up their own stuff, and even though they own those cables, I do what I can to make sure the cable is nicely coiled before handing it back to them. The problem is, storing cables in knots like this will kink the cable, and more subtly, it will cause the cable to have an erratic shape. A cable acquires memory as it's stored, and if you treat cables like this, it eventually becomes impossible to neatly coil them. Not only will coiling cables thoughtfully make cleanup a lot faster, but it will also prevent tripping hazards. If you're using cables on a stage or in a studio or anywhere really, keeping the cables nicely coiled and out of the way should be a priority. So I guess there really isn't a right way to coil a cable, but the over-under method is probably the essential method that you should know. And while you're working on the over-under technique, I invite you to go download the cable and connector guide at audiouniversityonline.com/cable guide. That guide can act as a quick reference you can refer back to when you're not sure which cable you need for a given situation. But after downloading the guide, come back here for the next video that's on your screen now, because we're taking a closer look at the genius techniques that make these cables so effective. It's one of my favorite topics in all of audio. I'll see you there.